Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, December 11, 2024, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we are a news podcast. We pride ourselves on doing the work, on doing the research from the most reputable sources with award-winning journalism. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, The Blaze, Newsmax, News Media, whatever extreme left or extreme right you get your views from. We simply don't do that. We provide you with the facts, nothing but the facts. At the same time, guys, we do try to maintain our professionalism, but let's be honest, words fly. At the same time, guys, there may be things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So before we get started, guys, with the mess that is happening in America right now, we do need to recognize that to give not only our respect, but also our flowers to an icon who is no longer with us.
Nikki Giovanni, a fierce and lyrical voice whose work illuminated love, liberation, and the unyielding power of self-expression, has died. Tributes are now pouring in from across the country as admirers and friends mourn the passing of a literary legend. Writer, activist, and public intellectual Nikki Giovanni was an unmissable and unmistakable presence in American culture for more than 50 years.
I'm not ashamed of our history because I know there is more to come.
Her poetry and prose, published in more than 24 volumes, grappled with race, sex, gender, and politics. And her commitment to fighting injustice inspired generations of Americans from all walks of life.
You cannot be afraid. And you cannot be worried about who does and who doesn't like what you do, because there's always somebody's not going to like it. If nobody doesn't like it, something's wrong with it.
Born Yolanda Cornelia Giovanni Jr. in 1943, Giovanni grew up in Cincinnati. At 15, she fled a turbulent family life and a father who was abusive to her mother.
I shouldn't say this on the radio, I guess, but it was clear that either I was going to kill him or I had to move. And so I decided to move.
If I dreamed natural dreams of being...
By the late 1960s, she had again moved to the Northeast, publishing militant, artful poetry that quickly made her a leading figure of the Black arts movement, and a fiery feminist counterpoint to the machismo she found in certain pockets of the civil rights movement. In 1971, in a now iconic interview with James Baldwin, Giovanni, then just 28 years old, spoke to the problems she saw in the way some Black women were treated in relationships.
Why are you going to be truthful with me when you lie to everybody else? You lied when you smiled at that cracker down the job, right? Lie to me, smile. Treat me the same way you would treat him.
I can't treat you the way I treat him.
You must. Because I've caught the frowns and the anger. He's happy with you. Of course he doesn't know you're unhappy. You grin at him all day long. You come home and I catch hell because I love you. I get least of you. I get the very minimum. And I'm saying, fake it with me. Is that too much of the Black woman to ask of the Black man? For 10 years, so that we can get a child on his feet that says, yeah, father smiled at mother. He talked to me about school today.
By 30, she was a genuine literary star, selling out Lincoln Center.
1 ounce of truth benefits like a ripple on a pond.
Over the next decades, she published frequently and toured widely, often reading her poetry against the backdrop of gospel music.
He looked at his dusty cracked boots to say, sister, my time is getting near.
Giovanni spent 35 years as a professor of English at Virginia Tech. The day after a shooting there that killed 32 people back in 2007, the community turned to her for solace amid the tragedy.
No one deserves a tragedy. We are Virginia Tech. The Hokie Nation embraces our own and reaches out with open heart and hands to those who offer their hearts and minds. We are strong and brave and innocent and unafraid. We are better than we think and not quite what we want to be.
She reminded us all to always be bold, to always speak your mind, to always lift your voice, and no matter who's watching or who's in the room, to be unafraid, to be unashamed.
Poet Kwame Alexander was a friend who had studied under Giovanni at Virginia Tech.
When I think of Black liberation and Black power and all these things that Nikki wrote about so eloquently, is I like to think of this thing I call matter-of-fact Black. The thing I think I learned from her, and that we have to remember our own humanity and not be defined by other people. And we got to remind America and the world of our humanity as well.
Among a lifetime of accolades, she won an American Book Award and was a 7-time recipient of the NAACP Image Award. And over a career that spanned more than half a century, she remained uncompromisingly herself.
What I know is that I will not let the world change me. I think that whatever it is that I have to give, I have some truths to give. I have, there's some laughter. I'm a Black woman, and Black women, despite all of it, we still find a way to laugh.
Giovanni is said to have continued working until her final days. Her final book of poetry, titled The Last Book, is set to be released next year. Nikki Giovanni.
Yep, that is a woman that has a life well lived. To Miss Giovanni, definitely rest in peace, rest in power, because the impact that you have will definitely be remembered. Because when you, for all those that don't know her story, I highly recommend that you take a chance to look at her, because her story, her words, especially her conversation with James Baldwin, because again, that was legendary in itself. But again, want to give our respect, our flowers, our thoughts, and our love, because again, 2024 sucks as far as just deaths in general. But speaking of deaths, guys, well, I guess we can conclude that the claims adjuster has been found, identified, in charge.
Overnight, Manhattan prosecutors filing a murder charge against Luigi Mangione for last week's shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, gunned down in the streets of Midtown Manhattan as he was visiting for a conference. Police launching a multi-state manhunt. A senior law enforcement official confirming to NBC News that a handwritten note saying in part, "These parasites had it coming," was recovered. The 26-year-old suspect was captured Monday, recognized by an employee at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, 5 days after the murder and 280 miles away. Police say Mangione's identity was not on their radar until the sighting.
We did not have his name prior to today.
Officer Tyler Fry, just 6 months on the job, responded with his partner.
He was wearing a blue medical mask. As soon as we pulled that down, or we asked him to pull it down, my partner and I recognized him immediately.
The arresting officers asking him if he had been in New York City recently.
He became visibly nervous, kind of shaking at that question.
According to the complaint, Mangione initially gave police a fake New Jersey driver's license, the same one police say was used to book a room at a Manhattan hostel. The charging documents also revealing when officers searched his backpack, they found a black 3D printed pistol and silencer. Mangione was born and raised in Maryland, his last known address in Hawaii. The high school valedictorian later graduated from the Ivy League school UPenn in 2020 with a master's degree in computer science. The Mangione family reacting to the news, writing they're shocked and devastated by Luigi's arrest and extending their prayers to the Thompson family. The case sparking global interest and some online backlash against the insurance industry. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro speaking out overnight.
I understand people have real frustration with our healthcare system. This killer is being hailed as a hero. Hear me on this. He is no hero. The real hero in this story is the person who called 911.
United Health Group, the parent company to United Healthcare, released a statement overnight saying that they hope this arrest provides at least some relief for family and friends. We also know that he will be in court again for his next scheduled court appearance on December 23rd.
All right, Stephanie.
So yes, Luigi, a name that at first Nintendo had to hurry up and say it's got nothing to do with us. But yes, Luigi Mangione was the guy who was identified as the shooter for the former CEO. Of course, there is widespread debate, if you will, over sympathy. And we've even said it here on this show that, you know, for a billionaire, it's hard to find sympathy for those that are well off, especially in the case of the former CEO, because for anybody that doesn't know, he did bring in $8 billion in profit for United Healthcare Group over the last 6 years. Why? Because he instituted an AI program that was designed to deny 35% of its claims. And for a lot of people, those claims that were denied may have led to loss of life, possibly. Whether it's denied care, whether it's surgeries, or even medication. And that's kind of thing where a lot of people have with the American healthcare system. That I've said many times in the show, the healthcare system in America is a for-profit system, and that is the problem. Should we be Medicare for all? Should we be a single-payer system? Should we do that? Yes. The problem is that when you have the top 8 out of health insurance companies lobbying Congress to make sure that basically the healthcare system stays in their hands, that's always going to be a problem. So I find it interesting where folks are saying, and again, if you haven't been to the United Healthcare Group's page on Facebook where they try to do a public statement and then wondered why a good number of those are laughing emojis, check the comments. I'm not going to lie, I chuckle at a few myself. But again, to find the sympathy for a billionaire who basically made a millionaire who made billions for a company, it's kind of hard to feel sympathetic when their actions may or may not lead to their eventual demise. May or may have not, just saying. But at the same time, how did they find Luigi? Well, if you believe the next story, apparently somebody at McDonald's saw him and then made a very miscalculated error.
This McDonald's was really a turning point in the investigation, but some online are bashing it. We've seen security outside and inside during the day, and Pennsylvania State Police released these new photos of the 26-year-old suspect, Luigi Mangione, inside the McDonald's eating moments before the arrest. Now, there's been a lot of talk online about what went down at this McDonald's. We checked Yelp, and many are review bombing this McDonald's location. A lot of reviews are negative, saying Mangione was ratted out to police. One went as far as calling him Peter Parker, which is the same name as the fictional superhero Spider-Man. Yelp put out an alert saying they've temporarily disabled posting for this McDonald's location.
Like the person who's taken from this McDonald's, I don't think he was a great person either, but he had a good intention. The guy who was shot, he made other people lose a lot of their lives, a lot of their family members. He needed to be caught.
As you just heard, there are a lot of different opinions about this situation. Some are not sympathizing with the CEO's death, and others are glad the suspect was caught. At a press conference yesterday, Pennsylvania's Governor Josh Shapiro spoke about the different reactions the person of interest is getting online. Go ahead and take a listen.
This killer is being hailed as a hero. Hear me on this. He is no hero.
So I'll stop it right there because they're basically going to back into the governor and saying that he's no hero. Also, to let you guys know that McDonald's, the person that was there at that McDonald's no longer works there. At the same time, when I said they had made it a miscalculated error, they called 911 and were expecting the $60K reward. But in order to collect the $60K reward, you would actually have to call the tip line. Said McDonald's employee did not. They called 911, of course, followed with the arrest later. But because they didn't follow instructions, they didn't get paid. And my thing is, I feel bad for not only, I should say I feel bad for the person that snitched, but also McDonald's, because now, the memes, the internet's undefeated. You saw the mixed snitch meal it comes with the rat, because again, for a lot of people, they feel like you should have just kept your mouth shut and put the fries in the bag. Because at the end of the day, it's perceived that those that are affluent got their justice while you didn't get spit, except the thank you. Hence why sometimes kind of best keep your mouth shut. Just saying. But I love the fact that everybody is saying that this man is not a hero. This man is not a hero. He's a murderer. He killed this man in cold blood. Okay, fair. However, I wonder how people feel about this story that has almost the same circumstances, but this time it involved a black man being killed.
Case that has provoked very strong feelings and raised tough questions. But after 5 days of deliberations, this jury of 7 women and 5 men finally reached consensus.
A jury in Manhattan finding Daniel Penny not guilty today, clearing the Marine veteran of any criminal wrongdoing for putting a man in this fatal chokehold on the subway last year. Some in the courtroom erupting in anger, others in relief, as crowds of demonstrators gathered outside, reflecting the deep divisions the case has sparked. Penny's defenders casting the 26-year-old as a folk hero for protecting other subway riders who described Jordan Neely's behavior that day as frightening and threatening.
The whole train was freaked out.
While others view Neely's death as an indictment of a broken mental health system that failed to protect a vulnerable 30-year-old man, a former Michael Jackson impersonator experiencing homelessness.
I just want to say, I miss my son. It hurts.
This video of Penny putting Neely in a chokehold for 6 minutes going viral. His defense team had argued at trial Penny didn't cause Neely's death, placing blame instead on a genetic condition, his struggles with mental illness and alleged drug use.
When you have someone repeatedly going through that system, that's a signature of failure.
The judge tossed out the top charge of manslaughter on Friday and sent jurors home after they said they were hopelessly deadlocked, returning today to deliberate for just a few hours on the lesser charge of criminally negligent homicide. The DA's office saying in a statement, quote, "The jury has now spoken. We respect their verdict." Laura Jarrett, NBC News, New York.
So yes, that man, Mr. Penny, choked out Jordan Neely. At the same time, acquitted, but called a hero. I don't see anyone calling him a murderer. I don't see anyone saying, well, you know, he didn't have to do such things. He didn't have to do anything. And even when asked about his reactions, he goes to everybody's favorite place not to get yelled at, Fox News.
Daniel Penny told Fox News he would not have been able to live with himself if he hadn't intervened after Jordan Neely threatened people on the subway. Penny says he felt vulnerable during the altercation.
Now where I'm on the ground with him, I'm on my back in a very vulnerable position.
Why is that a vulnerable position?
Well, if I just let him go, I'm on my back now. He can just turn around and start doing what he said to me.
As demonstrators protested the verdict, Penny said it's nerve-wracking to be seen as a villain.
It is nerve-wracking to be seen as the villain. Sir. And I say this because it needs to be said. It needs to be said out there. Okay? Luigi. I can't say Luigi because I'll have forever Mario Brothers stuck in my head. The claims adjuster was the nickname that was given to him by the internet. Sure. He 86 to billionaire. Okay. It's cold-blooded, yes. But at the same time, how many people, and I'm just gonna flat out say it. How many people are really gonna cry over the loss of a millionaire who made his millions off denying people care? It's hard, difficult, and I can see that argument. But the claim adjuster was also called a hero. But a majority of people saying, no, it's murder. Murder is murder. Murder is murder. Enter Daniel Penny. Daniel Penny, a former Marine who decided to take it upon himself to restrain and chokehold a homeless person who had no weapon, who had who had nothing on him to really threaten people outside the fact that he was just threatening people. You took it upon yourself to put this man in a chokehold, and you didn't release. But yet you, after the verdict, post-verdict, when you got acquitted of all charges, you go right into Fox News and you sit there and say, well, if I didn't let him go, then, I'm vulnerable because I'm on my back. And, he could have done the things he said he would do to me. The level of BS with that, because from the video, if you let him go, his back is still front facing, is still to you. Unless this man, and keep in mind, you had 3 other people around you doing something. So even in the event that you did let go, even in the event that something happens, you still have safety numbers. The fact that you say that, to me, screams it's like you're not a hero if you're playing victim. But everybody wants to say, oh, he's a hero. Oh, he's a hero. Oh, he's this. Yet, claims adjuster, oh, he's a murderer. They should throw the book at him. He killed that man in cold blood. Both actions were murder. But yet, because he choked out a homeless black man, and the story that was pushed upon him was, oh, he was homeless, he had mental issues, possible drug abuse. What's one more loss of a black man's life as long as the white man looks heroic, right? The only difference is that one victim was white, the other victim was black. And when the other victim is black, we've seen historically, when the victim is black, the person accused gets a pass. And you can dress that up any way you like, but Daniel got a pass. And even more so, he's going to get the Kyle Rittenhouse treatment. Because you know why? Fox News has the greatest example, and I got to give credit to The Daily Show because they put this together, and it's freaking perfect.
Let's get loud for Kyle Rittenhouse.
Murder, assassination, vigilantism. It's wrong, it's evil, it's despicable. There's no hero. Cheering for the murder of an unarmed man is beyond sick.
For anyone that sympathizes and empathizes with a murderer, that is completely upside down in our American society. There are people that need to reevaluate their inner soul and their moral compass. Yeah. There is nothing acceptable to me about that.
Wackos are treating suspected killer as a folk hero. Actual praise for the murder itself.
To sympathize with them, it's just disgusting.
They have a Bonnie and Clyde syndrome in the DSM-V4 in psychiatric treatment, and that's when some people are enamored by criminals.
You don't have the right to go out and kill somebody and take, vigilante justice into your hands. So I think it's really disturbing to people across the country as they tune in and hear, people excited and saying there's joy from this. I think it's really concerning.
Kyle. So again, guys, Fox News right there. And I say this because they're always the ones that are saying, well, you can't do vigilantism, taking the law into your own hands, killing somebody. That's wrong. It's despicable. It should be praised. Kyle Rittenhouse, Daniel Perry. Why? One had a gun. One was trained. One was lethally trained as a soldier. Both took lives. And I guarantee Mr. Daniel will be getting the same Fox News treatment / welcome red carpet / conservative pack / conference. We will, and I'm calling it because they'll do the same thing Kyle Rittenhouse. But yet the claims adjuster, because you took out an affluent person, they're going to look at you and say, murderer. It's literally the same crime. But when it's a black victim, all is forgiven. Tell me if I'm wrong. That's all I'm saying. Tell me if I'm wrong. But moving on, guys, there are some publications out there. I have to wonder what is wrong with them. Specifically, Time. Time magazine is naming felon / president-elect Dorito Person of the Year for the second time. Now, here's the thing about Time Magazine. Time Magazine, I think, is a very influential, very correct publication. They gave Trump this nomination the first time because of the impact that he had during his first presidential run. Okay, fair. It was an anomaly. We didn't think he'd make it. A lot of us didn't think he'd make it. But that being said, a second time for, again, lying his ass off. He lied his ass off. He didn't do debates outside of one. He did one within President Biden, did one within presidential hopeful Madam Vice President Harris. And then after the Harris debate, he went radio silent. Oh, I won't do debates anymore. I won't do this. I'll just go around campaigning. I'll just go around grifting. I'll just go around saying the greatest hits. Fast forward 5 to 6 months later, he somehow won the election. Why? Well, because a lot of people believed his lies. Oh, I'm gonna get grocery prices down. we're gonna get energy. We're gonna get production back through all these tariffs. We're gonna take tax off everything. And not understanding simple fact of the matter that people believed it. Because some people were fed up. Instead of actually doing the research, they got fed up. But now that it's all said and done, now that the clown parade is in full effect, the death panel has been selected, Mr. Trump decided, I'm going to go to Meet the Press, which I thought he would go back to his safe spot at Fox News. But he decided to sit down with an interview with Meet the Press. And I just want to take a little bit of snippets. It's almost a 47-minute interview. But I wanted to point this out because it needs to be said about three things. Number one, he talked about the tariffs. You shouldn't, and for all those that think that, he's going to say the same thing, wait.
One of your signature promises on the campaign trail, which was to end inflation, to lower prices. You are now proposing tariffs against the United States' three biggest trading partners. Economists of all stripes say that ultimately consumers pay the price of tariffs.
I don't believe
Can
it.
you guarantee American families won't pay more?
I can't guarantee anything. I can't guarantee tomorrow. But I can say that if you look at just pre-COVID, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country. And I had a lot of tariffs on a lot of different countries, but in particular China. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars, and we had no inflation. In fact, when I handed it over, they didn't have inflation for a year and a half. They went almost 2 years just based on what I had created. And then they created inflation with energy and with spending too much. So I think I'm a big believer in tariffs. I think tariffs are the most beautiful word. I think they're beautiful. It's going to make us rich. We're subsidizing Canada to the tune of over $100 billion a year. We're subsidizing Mexico for almost $300 billion. We shouldn't be subsidizing. Why are we subsidizing these countries? If we're going to subsidize them, let them become a state. We're subsidizing Mexico, and we're subsidizing Canada, and we're subsidizing many countries all over the world. And all I want to do is I want to have a level, fast, but fair playing field.
Sir, your
Okay, let's just stop right there because, my God, my head's going to hurt. Folks, tariffs don't work that way. His whole thing of saying, when I put in tariffs, prices were down, the economy was up. That is a lie. When he decided to tariff China, forgetting that 90% of what we get comes from overseas. A good percent of that comes from China. I can't believe I'm saying this again, but it has to be said again. Tariffs work in this system. Tariffs work in his mind not that way. Because, guys, when they put tariffs on goods coming in, that means the other side doesn't pay a goddamn thing outside of what they're already paying. It's not like your goods are going to come from China, and it's like, oh, well, there's tariff. The company that sent the goods has to pay more. No, they don't. because tariffs don't affect them. The tariffs affect who's ever paying for said goods. So, for example, guys, let's just be honest. Say your iPhones, because iPhones are popular. Let's just put it this way. iPhones are made in China. So say certain retailers who purchase these iPhones, now, if Trump has it his way, will pay higher, because now they have to pay the tariffs on goods in order to sell them here in America. Said retailers will be paying more. Do you think that said retailers are going to be eating that cost? No, they will not. They will pass that cost to the consumer because they cannot afford to take the freaking hit. Ergo, if you decided that, hey, next year I want to join the Apple family, guess what? You'll be paying more. At the same time, that's the whole point of the entire tariffs. Tariffs are supposed to divert and actually increase productivity here in America. That's not how tariffs work. Tariffs are basically charging, hey, if you're going to sell in America, you're going to be paying more. Whereas what he thinks tariffs are going to do, tariffs are not going to just automatically bloom production, bloom business here in the United States. That's not how tariffs work. That's a whole different animal. But Trump believes it because the lie that he tells is that when I put tariffs in last time, they worked. No, they didn't. Biden and company had to come in and literally spend to get the economy going to where it's almost back to, I'm not going to say pre-inflation levels, but it actually took the majority of Biden's presidency to get it down to where it is now. And that's after 4 years of letting Trump run wild. So now, because he's getting a second shot at this, he wants to think that he wants to do it again. Mark my words, FA and FO, you will be paying more across the board. Why? Because the entire, I won't say the entire, 98% of the economy field of experts have all said the same thing. Trump's plan will not save, it will make you spend more. Because the only people that are going to be winning out of Trump's camp are those of the affluent. That's just being honest. Even more so, his other promise on mass deportation. You know what he sat there and said? I want to deport all illegal immigrants from the country. And again, he was asked.
Here illegally over the next 4 years.
Well, I think you have to do it. And it's a very tough thing to do. But you have to have, you have rules, regulations, laws. They came in illegally. The people that have been treated very unfairly are the people that have been online for 10 years to come into the country. And we're going to make it very easy for people to come in terms of they have to pass the test. They have to be able to tell you what the Statue of Liberty is. They have to tell you a little bit about our country. They have to love our country. They can't come out of prisons. We don't want people that are in for murder. So we had 11,000 and 13,000 different estimates, 13,099 murderers released into our country over the last 3 years. They're walking down the streets. They're walking next to you and your family, and they're very dangerous.
The 13,000 figure, I think, goes back about 40 years.
No, it doesn't. No,
That
it's within the 3-year
13,000
period.
figure.
It's during the Biden term. No, that was a fiction that they put that out. This was done by the Border Patrol. It's 13,099, and it's during the Biden period of time. And these are murderers, many of whom murdered more than one person. You don't want those people in this country.
So again, this is the part where I literally want to faceplant, because I'm just like, fact check him. The thing that was done to him in the debates, fact check him. Because the number he gave, the journalist is right. That was over 40 years ago. That number was estimated nearly 40 years ago. And of course, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. That was from the Border Patrol. Sir, that's public knowledge. You're going to sit there and deny something that's public knowledge? And then he goes into the stick. Oh, well, we don't want to get rid of everybody, but just the ones, who passed the test. The civics test that you give for naturalized citizens, the thing that they actually already do now. So I just, how can a person with brain cells look at this man and say, I voted for him? because he's an old nationalist / racist who now realizes, oh crap, we can't get rid of all illegal immigrants. There goes the workforce. Farmers will find, I always say it best, if you want to look at what happens when you go after immigration, look no further than Florida. Governor Ron DeSantis talked about, well, if you're going to hire illegal immigrants, we're going to fine you $10,000 per person, and then we're going to deport them. How many of those folks left Florida? How many construction and farm and vineyards took a massive hit because that's the workforce? And trust me, it's not just the southern states, it's all across the board. If you decide to tackle immigration this way, your workforce takes a hit, because for all those jobs that are going to be open, who do you think is going to do them? Not black people. I hate to break it to you. And at the same time, I don't expect too many other groups will be willing to do the jobs that these people do. Not at that pay anyway. But he talks about, he talks about DACA and Dreamers like we want to keep them here. Sir, it's amazing that when you know that you're going to be president in less than a month, which is not too far off from now, in a few weeks you're going to be president. And it's amazing how now, he went from hellfire and brimstone on giving all immigrants to like, we might need to keep some. We might need to keep a couple. We might need to, sort out the ones we need to keep. Get rid of the murderers, the rapists, because that's his shtick. It's like every good con man. It's like a preacher in a pulpit. You stick with what gets your flock going. You stick to what makes your flock give you money. Trump has realized that art very well. He's been doing it for a very long freaking time. So, of course, him going on immigration, I knew he was going to soften on that because, again, it's a workforce that his buddies who have bought into his craziness cannot afford to lose. And finally, here's the other crazy part that I'm not surprised about, but when it comes to those that are serving time because of their terrorist actions on January 6th, he said this.
Acting very quickly.
Within your first 100 days, first day?
First day.
First day.
Yeah, I'm looking
can
first day.
Issue these pardons.
These people have been there. How long is it? 3 or 4 years?
Okay.
By the way, they've been in there for years, and they're in a filthy, disgusting place that shouldn't even be allowed to be open.
So again, he's talking about the people that are serving time for their actions on the January 6th terrorist action. He wants to go back and he wants to pardon all of those individuals that are doing jail time. That's what he wants to do. The same crowd that he riled up and said, we're going to go take back our country. The same people that decided to go after and hurt Capitol Police. The same people that broke in and literally ransacked the place. And now he wants to go back and say, you guys have been misjudged. You guys have not been treated fairly. Here's a presidential pardon. Be on your way. All the wrong reasons as to why this man should not be president. Even more so, where again, this is the part where I have to point this out. His new person for health, brain infested, lost his mind, sounds like he needs chamomile tea and a throat lozenge every 5 seconds, RFK, he wants him, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, to look into a possible link between vaccines and autism. I wish I could make this up.
A junior, he has obviously talked about his skepticism of vaccines. He's expressed opposition to childhood vaccines. Do you want to see childhood vaccines eliminated?
If they're dangerous for the children. Look.
So possibly?
When you look at some of the problems, when you look at what's going on with disease and sickness in our country, something's wrong.
Are you talking about autism?
Well, if you take a look at autism, you go back 25 years, autism was almost non-existent. It was, 1 out of 100,000. And now it's close to 1 out of 100.
Well,
I mean, what's happening? If they can find it. Now, I did something the other night that was a little unusual. At Mar-a-Lago, I called the drug companies, the top drug companies, and I called RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz and some of his people. And I said, let's all get together and let's figure out where we're going, because we're going to do a lot of things. Number one, we're going to reduce prices because the middleman makes more money than the drug companies, in all fairness to the drug companies. There's a middleman that nobody even knows who they are. And you look at our drug prices, they're much higher than the prices for the same medicine, for the same stuff. So we met, and we were met for a long time. And we talked about pricing, and we talked about vaccines, you know, in terms of what happens. We talked about pesticides. We talked about everything. And I think a lot of good things are going to come from him. And he's not going to upset any system. He's not going to upset this. He's not looking to, you know, to reinvent the wheel totally. But when you look at the numbers, we really don't have a very healthy country.
Well, sir, going back 25 years, studies show that there is no link between vaccines and autism. And yet it sounds like you are open to the possibility of him looking
I'm
at
open to
getting
anything.
rid of them.
I think somebody has to find out. If you go back 25 years ago, you had very little autism. Now you have it. I mean,
Well, they say because they're better at identifying it.
1 in 100,000, and now it's 1 in 100. That's a pretty bad number.
Childhood vaccines.
I mean,
have
something is going on. I don't know if it's vaccines. Maybe it's chlorine in the water, right? You know, people are looking at a lot of different things.
You know, childhood
I
vaccines.
want them to look at everything.
Everything. So childhood vaccines have prevented about 4 million deaths around the world every year.
I think that's
sir.
great.
Isn't that
I'm all for it. I think it's great. Hey, look, I'm not against vaccines. The polio vaccine is the greatest thing. If somebody told me get rid of the polio vaccine, they're going to have to work real hard to convince me. I think certain vaccines are incredible, but maybe some aren't. And if they aren't, we have to find out. But when you talk about autism, because it was brought up, and you look at the amount we have today versus 20 or 25 years ago, it's pretty scary.
Well, again, scientists say that's because they've gotten better at
I think we're gonna
identifying it,
know,
and there's
yeah.
no link in
But
studies.
the drug
sir.
companies are going to be working with RFK Jr. and he's been an interesting guy to me. I've watched him for 25 years, and he's been an interesting guy.
So here's the crazy. Here's what makes me want to drink after listening to that mess. But no, I stress this very heavily. From the scientific field, there is no correlation between vaccines leading to autism in children. It is a conservative, crazy, tinfoil conspiracy narrative that just won't die. And the medical field has proven this time and time again. There is no link between autism, between vaccines and autism. Vaccines do not give autism because, again, we've actually had people who are trained in research and in the medical arts. And again, we have to trust them because, well, that's their profession. We should know what they're doing. Trust the science. You know, the thing that's right and has facts, whether you believe it or not, that part. But this is why, outside of Trump just not qualified for office, the people that he's picking are not qualified for these positions, because you heard his literal verbal diarrhea. He's like, well, we're going to look into why is autism such a thing now? Why is it? Because, again, this is why I wish that journalist, she tried. Don't get me wrong. She tried. But there is a reason why a lot of people are losing their faith in mainstream media, because if you have the facts, you can back up what you say, hold these people accountable. It's not that freaking hard, because the one thing that Trump and his company hate, they hate being called on their BS. They hate being called when you can present facts and sit there and say, no, this is what it is. Autism is still a relatively new field. At the same time, there have been great strides in researching and learning about autism behaviors, how to manage or cope, and things of that nature. That field is still growing because more research and more people are becoming dedicated to it. It's not like somewhere along the line 50 years ago, autism just sprung up like a disease. It's the same way with ADHD or neurological or behavioral disorders or restless leg syndrome. These things just didn't pop out of nowhere. Felon Trump. They were things that couldn't be diagnosed or misdiagnosed or simply put, just chalked up to, well, nervous behavior. It wasn't until research was applied to where these things to have a name, to have a condition, and to have treatment. It takes research. At the same time, I don't trust a guy like RFK Jr. to literally be the Secretary of Human Health, of Human Health Services. I'm sorry, I don't trust this man who's had brain leeches, who can't even speak without needing a microphone or a megaphone. I don't trust a man who has conspiracy theories on health and things that could impact the American people, who has no experience except being a politician. I'm sorry, there's just something about that should scream alarms as far as allowing this man to basically put in health policies for the American public. But again, this is why I say with Trump, guys, this is exactly why I say this is the FA part. The FO part will come once this guy is elected. And that alone is a problem. And I do mean a effing problem. But last bit of news, guys, that I have, which I respect the Manhattan DEA for. The Manhattan District Attorney and State Attorney General want to keep his criminal and civil cases in New York not dismissed. As you guys have noticed, we covered this in the previous podcast. A lot of these cases, specifically Special Counsel Jack Smith, wants to dismiss his case with prejudice because America is the only country to where if you are the president, you can remain untouched. Even if you've been found guilty in defrauding, in mortgage fraud, even if you've been found guilty of sexual assault, even if you have cases to where one is pending to where you interfered in the election that you lost, and yet this man was able to run and be elected as president. And yet, now that he's president-elect again, he wants his case dismissed. And I'm just sitting there shaking my head like, why are we still not forward prosecuting this man? Oh, because the Department of Justice sat there and said, it is the opinion of the Department of Justice not to indict a sitting president. And people wonder how Dorito was able to get his cases, which, again, the cases happened well before the election. But he used the election as an excuse. Oh, we can't have my case now because that'll affect my campaign. We can't have this case now. This will affect how the American people will see me. We can't have this case now. His lawyers argued this in courts appointed by him when he was president that allowed these cases to be pushed so far back that when he was able to run, they almost became nothing. So how is it a predator, a con man, a fraudster, a felon who still should be, election's over. Why his cases are still not running? Oh, well, we can't indict a sitting president. He's not president yet. Make it make sense. Because the simple fact of the matter is, if you wait until he's president, then comes the BS of the excuse. We can't indict a sitting president. He's not president yet. Again, the American people should really be asking those in the justice system, because Democrats, you got 3 weeks. You got 3 weeks to do something. And I'm sorry, Biden pardoning his son, that's I'm small potatoes. What are Democrats doing now outside of prepping to go home for the holidays? Are you trying to push through more Supreme Court justice picks? Give it to Biden. Biden secretly pushed through multiple judge confirmations. Almost every one of them black women. That's cool. But what more are you doing, Biden? Are you trying to codify abortion rights for women? Are you trying to push through protection statuses for undocumented immigrants? Are you trying to, do something along the lines of police reform to get that pushed through? Are you trying to push through I don't know, increasing the federal minimum wage to above maybe $20 instead of the $7.25 it's been sitting at since 2009. I asked Democrats all this. I asked Democrats, what are you guys doing outside of prepping to go home for the holidays? And then you people wonder, it's like the only time, and I say this all the time, although I'm not Democrat and I'm not Republican, but Democrats, how is it that Republicans had the same amount of time you did, brought a Supreme Court justice picks through, got their tax bill passed, and a handful of court appointees they did this in the same amount of time that you guys now have before they take over the House, before they take over the Senate, before they take over the presidency come next year. What are Democrats doing? Outside of, it's great. You got several Black women as judges nominated. That's great. But number one, why aren't y'all pushing for Trump's cases to see the light? And number two, this one that ticks me off. Why are you not releasing the report on Matt Gaetz? Keep in mind, we talked about this, guys, last week, where Matt Gaetz, the ethics committee was actually doing a report on Matt Gaetz, where he may have allegedly been at parties with drugs, alcohol, and possibly underage girls. Now, the Democrats were supposed to push this vote to basically get this release. All Republicans did what they usually did, stand by their own people, and said, no, we vote to have this sent back to the ethics committee to release this report, thereby stonewalling this. Because again, if what this report is true, and I say this all the time, if this report is true, if he did pay to basically have relations with underage girls, if the report is true, why is this even coming to us? Why is this not going to the Department of Justice? Why is he not being brought up on charges? This sounds like a Law and Order SVU episode that's just waiting to happen. And yet, Democrats, what are you guys doing? Oh, well, we forced the votes. But at the same time, why is this, if in this report that these women testified, why is it not in the hands of the Department of Justice? And why is that Bendejo not sitting behind bars awaiting trial? Again, this is why I stand and say a lot of people will have issues with the Democratic Party because of this. And now that we're entering the FO part of this, we are going to be entering, guys, the FO part of all this. Because once Trump takes office, guys, it's going to be it's going to be a long 4 years. But at the same time, don't expect to be just 4 years. Remember what Trump said, and again, I point this out all the time when he said, if you vote for me, you'll never have to vote again. Sure, sounds like a wonderful campaign promise, but this is also the guy that now has the House, that has the Senate, and has the presidency. It's 2016 all over again. And we know how that wound up, because some Americans were mad that a Black man for 8 years kept us stable, kept us a little bit off the black, and almost got us out of war. Now we're about to hand the keys back over to the same guy who bankrupted a casino. FA and F out, people. But we're going to go ahead and move on to our feel-good segment of the podcast. Usually on How the Frack We Got Here, we cover a lot of things, our doom and gloom, since I make you faith and humanity. But hey, it's hump day. Tomorrow is a pre-Friday, which is Wednesday. We will leave you guys out some good vibrations. And in this case, through the actions of two young girls, they have impacted the world of so many others. And I keep saying this, don't ever think that your impact will not just affect many, because two girls in this next CNN special will prove you all wrong.
Moving to a home in a new state. Everything's unfamiliar, and you're worried about fitting in. Brooke and Brianna Bennett felt that way when they moved from Miami, Florida to Montgomery, Alabama. To make them feel welcome, the girls in their new church threw them a birthday party. That act of kindness inspired them to give back to the girls in their community. Their idea came from watching their mother. She worked at a girls' school, and many of the students would stop by her office for free period products because they couldn't afford them. So in 2019, They started Women in Training, known as WIT, to provide menstrual products to girls and women in need for free. So far, they've supplied more than 30,000 WIT kits to shelters, after-school programs, and schools. And the first girls to receive a WIT kit? The 8 girls who threw them a birthday party, because acts of kindness can always make the world a better place.
We never thought we would do more than one giveaway for our 12th birthday, but we realized that this was a way bigger issue than we ever thought it would be. Everything that you need is in there. Thank you. Many people that we serve view period products as a luxury, which is extremely sad because it is necessary. Having period products is maintaining good health.
In our WIT kits, of course, we have the pads, and then we have shampoo, deodorant, soap, and dental items.
Expanding our kits really came from a place of wanting menstruators to be all around healthy.
We realized that we couldn't get around to everyone, no matter how hard we try. And so we met with Representative Rolanda Hollis to help pass this bill so that we could get period products around Alabama.
They knew exactly what they wanted. We sat, I listened, and we created the bill for 100,000 and the budget, and we're gonna try to double it again.
Yes. The bill provides menstrual products in Title I schools across the state of Alabama.
We have serviced over 50,000 females. That's because the twin girls had it in their hearts to help other young women.
Hi, how are y'all? We have some kits for you guys. What keeps us really going is the joy that is on these menstruators' faces when they realize that they don't need to worry about their time of the month. Fuzzy socks. That's my favorite part.
This kit means I have the things that I need that I normally could not afford. Being a homeless person, we're trying to survive.
This is exactly what females need every day.
I just felt amazing that 2 young ladies could care and think about someone like me. And it meant the world.
Group hug, group hug. For the future of Women in Training, we see expanding nationwide. There's always something that you can do to help other people. Joining.
So that's a beautiful thing. But the simple fact of the matter, guys, is just that don't ever think that your impact will not affect others, because again, Brooke and Brianna Bennett did just that. And again, that is a beautiful thing. And I love to see young people actually making an impact where they live. So does the heart feel good? Anyway, that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. Thank you all for liking, for watching, for subscribing, letting people know it's live. I certainly appreciate it. Some shameless plugging before we do get out of here, guys. I always want to bring up blurredstation.com for all you blurs and nerds out there. It is a place for our content, our viewership, and most importantly, our dollars should go to. Tubi is great, but Tubi is actually owned by the same guy that owns Fox, and Tubi is well worth over $100 million. Why? Because of our viewership. Those dollars should be going back to us, and Blur Station is definitely a site that you can do that at. So if you be so inclined to go to blurredstation.com, hit the Join Now button. At the Join Now button, if you select the Blur's Eye View Affinity membership and can select my name, Black Spartan there, I'd certainly appreciate that. As you can see, it's $10.99 to view and stream Blur Station. $10.99 a month. You cannot beat that with a stick. At 36 months of paying $10.99 a month, you do have the option to own a piece of Blur Station. And guys, it's never been so easier to be a part of a media conglomeration or own one without going through the stock exchange. So definitely check out blurredstation.com when you get the chance. At the same time, guys, please check out Always Press Record or APR TV. Why? Because the shows like How the Frack We Got Here are there for you to see every episode that we have. So you can actually watch it, whether online, alwayspressrecord.com, or APR TV on your app, also on your smart devices, or wherever you do actually stream. You can definitely do that, guys, because, again, it's another vehicle to where our content, our viewership, our dollars should be going to. And finally, guys, runforoffice.org. I keep saying this all the time. You want to know how these Moms for Liberties, how these extremely religious nuts folks have gotten these offices? This is how they did it from the ground up. So If you do believe that you are ready for public service, whether it's locally or a state or at the federal level, Run for Office can definitely help you do that. Simply put, to go there, go by your address. It'll take you to the process of how to get on the board, and more importantly, how to actually get elected. Now, it does not guarantee anything, but again, if you do feel the call to actually serve your country in this way, and again, to do it from the ground up, Run for Office definitely can help you with that. I should say runforoffice.org. My apologies. As for me, guys, you can find me Black_Spartan615 on the social, guys. You can find the podcast wherever podcasts can be seen or heard. The link at the bottom, if you copy and paste that link in your browser, will take you to the link to the YouTube and Facebook groups for all of our podcasts. Like, share, and subscribe. A like, a share, and a follow costs nothing but means everything, and we would certainly appreciate that. As we wrap this up, guys, again, we are getting close to the holiday season. I stress this very heavily. Holidays can be rough on some of us. We may have lost a loved one. We may have had a life event happen or something tragic. What I'm saying is, guys, check up on your friends, check up on your family, whether it's a call, whether it's a text, whether it's a message, or even just, going to check on them and having a word. It never ceases to amaze me the kindness that can be displayed by simply saying, hey, doing okay? You doing all right? Things of that nature. You don't know the impact you could have on somebody who just might not be feeling the holiday spirit. But just check on your people. Strong folks and all the folks around. That's all I'm saying. At the same time, guys, please be clean. It's the holiday season. Please wash, please moisturize, do all the above, because nobody likes being sick. But what I'll say about how the Frack We Got Here, guys, is all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information, allow you to make up your own mind, but we do provide a logical perspective that goes along with it. We do better as society once we're informed. Progressive, we move forward. We try to right the wrongs of the past and making decisions now that we should have done back then. Like electing our first Black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, and maybe one day electing our first Black woman to be the first Madam President. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go up at our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians to Congress, but still the same old game? And most importantly, how the Frack We Got Here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other. I promise we'll all get through this.